When I went vegan in the late 70s, the Vegan Society was about 35 years old. Now, still not 100 years old, obviously. And we're talking about 1944, when the first Vegan Society was formed. Now, 1944 is the last year but one of the Second World War. So the people who formed the Vegan Society were doing a fairly kind of radical thing. Donald Watson famously was a conscientious objector, for example. So, those of you who kind of listened to or watched any of my videos before and seen my blog entries will know that I'm rather concerned about developments within the movement. I'm interested in social movements academically. I've read and taught social movement theory, for example, but I'm concerned about the current state of the movement, and it seems to me that there's various pressures at the moment to reduce the meaning of veganism to suit some agendas, and they're basically kind of reducitarian kind of ideas, whether it be reducing veganism to a diet or just about food, or reducing kind of more common idea, for the animals type veganism, for the animals only, nothing else. Why can't the other animals have their own movement? Why do we have to bring in other issues? I think this is a kind of misreading of what veganism is about, because it was always an entangled situation. If you go back to the founders of the Vegan Society, or as I tend to put it, the vegan movement, we're talking about people in the 1940s and 50s who came together as a political act and for the first time developed a social movement, or at least a social movement organization. And they came up with a name for it, which was vegan. And so the Vegan Society was born. And eventually, after a rather chaotic start, we have now a functioning social movement called the vegan movement. And the people in it are part of the vegan community. Now, I think some vegans don't necessarily see themselves as campaigners, or even maybe don't see themselves as part of a social movement, whereas I do. I think of veganism as a social movement, and therefore the Vegan Society is a social movement organization within it. It was the founding social movement organization of the vegan social movement. Now, it seems to me that the values of the founders of this European British vegan social movement are important, and as I've said repeatedly in the past, it's not that their views are law, it's just that they are the founders of our movement. And so I think therefore that any discussion and any definition, any exposition of the notion of veganism should at least acknowledge what their vision was. And their vision was larger and more radical than most vegans that I know currently, and most vegan views that you see, whether it be the reducitarians proper, the so-called vegan strategists and all this, or whether it's the new YouTube superstars. All have got a rather impoverished idea of veganism. I saw a video the other day featuring Paul Bashir. He seems to have a very scant grasp of what veganism is, and it seems to me that there's a lot of people now who want to forge veganism in the way that they want it to be, ignoring what it meant for, say, people in my generation and the generation before that, the real genuine kind of founders of the movement, if you like. Now, I think this is an issue because veganism is a very big, radical idea, and I think it's worth saving. And it shouldn't be slimmed down for business reasons or for ideological reasons. And I think there's a lot of people now in the movement who just don't see veganism in the way that my generation does, which were, let me use the dread word, the kind of veganism that I'm used to would be called pro-intersectional in nature. In other words, a blend of human rights, animal rights, environmental concerns, and in the very early pioneers, even concerns about things like the earth's soil and woodlands and those kind of things, habitat, those kind of issues. So we talked about a kind of worldwide global idea, and part of the vision of the founders was that a vegan mindset would bring about a radical change for humanity. And I've characterized that as them talking about, and Leslie Cross talks about this directly, about the kind of moral evolution of humanity, where he talks about a second great aim or second aspect of veganism being about humanity. But if you look at the statements of the founders of the vegan social movement, the British European vegan social movement, then you're looking at people who saw the connections and saw the fact that we needed to bring about a new mindset, which was forged for them, of course, at the time of a world war. And they'd seen all kinds of suffering, the Holocaust, mass genocide, mass killing, and they thought, we're going to have to do something here, and we need a new radical vision of our place in the world. And their radical vision of our place became known as veganism. It wasn't about diet, although it involves the diet. It wasn't about lifestyle, although it involves lifestyle. They forged amongst themselves, in a bit of a chaotic manner, a philosophy of life which they thought would literally save human beings. By liberating other animals, we would save the planet and we would save ourselves. They saw it as being that important.